Okay, moving right along. Would someone like to move Resolution 2015-130?
So moved.
What is it?
Second.
Okay, that would be a resolution authorizing the acquisition of real property by the purchase or condemnation from Graco, Minnesota, Inc. for the East Bank Trail purposes.
Oh, yes, that's where we are.
Commissioner Vreeland.
My mom's, the TV's gone off, so I can curse now?
No.
The G-rated program.
That's right.
I just am so concerned that Graco has really chosen a path that I think is not particularly ethical or helpful to the city building that we're all up here engaged in. And I think it's pretty clear that Graco made an agreement and that there was an expectation that there would be an easement by that in front of their building, and they want something more, and they're trying to use this easement to get something that was never part of the deal, was never. So this motion we're debating might cost us $700,000 or more, might be legally complex, and may not be accomplished before the federal deadline of funds for $1 million+. So Graco is putting us in the position of losing more than $1 million, $1 million.
One plus the
$1.1 million for
Almost
something that doesn't affect them at all, except that they're greedy and want something else. And I just think we should put political pressure everywhere we can. I've worked with Graco. They have an incredible history of being ethical and good employers and being able to work with the city. And this is a lapse in those ethics of their history and legacy. And they are going to cost us maybe $700,000 and have us lose $1 million+ because they're greedy and want something that they could accomplish. They want a new headquarters. And they have surface parking. They have area. There is, I believe, enough land in that location for what they want. But they want something better, something closer to the river. And I just think it's untenable. I just, all you folks at Graco, why would you be costing this city $1 million+ in federal dollars because of your stubbornness? Why don't you admit that this was a good faith agreement, that the paperwork is not as complete as it might be, but you made this promise to the community. You made this promise as this $1 million+ of tax increment financing was being granted to you to bring you here because you would be good neighbors. I'm asking you to be a good neighbor. I got more. You want?
We'll let you get your breath. Commissioner Irwin.
Thank you, President Walensky. I don't know if I'm going to be so impassioned. I'll just say that the 14 years I've been associated with the Park Board, that entire time we talked about putting paths on the east side of the river, and that entire time people said, don't worry, Graco's a partner in this. Graco's going to support this. They're going to put paths in. We have an easement agreement. We don't have anything to worry about. They were involved in the Mississippi Riverfront Partnership. They participate on this. They're good neighbors. And then 4 years ago, we go to meet Graco, and they're like, well, we don't seem to remember the agreement that we agreed to for the last 10 years. And furthermore, we want some of the land that you just bought, and we want you to give it to us. Now, we're to this point not because the Park Board chooses to be at this point, but because Graco has reneged on an agreement. They are not participating in a process of revitalizing the riverfront that they've been part of for a decade. And the Park Board is looking at putting a fantastic park adjacent to their headquarters with a lot of public money that may go into that. We've already spent a lot of public money buying this property, and we're going to put a path using federal dollars around their headquarters to enhance the entire area for their employees. And what do they say? No, we're not going to let you build this with other money. We're not going to let you do this. We don't want you to build a big park next to our headquarters with public resources. We don't want to be any part of that. We want you to go away. We don't want to honor our agreement. So I would just say that I agree with Commissioner Vreeland. We don't want to be in this place. I'm extremely disappointed with Graco. I think everyone I know in the entire Northeast is disappointed with Graco. And I hope that they reconsider before we spend even more public resources to try to put this path along the river to serve not only the folks in Northeast, but the entire city.
Commissioner Tabb.
Thank you. I would agree with my fellow commissioners on this as well. Again, that we find ourselves in a place that we don't want to be in, and I'm certainly very disappointed, and I'm disappointed because what this action means is the only way that we can move forward on an amenity that we believe helps bring equity to Northeast Minneapolis is the only way we can do that is through a lawsuit, which is, again, not what we wanted to do at all. And yet, this is part of sort of the grand scheme of what we have been working toward for the 130 years that the Park Board has been at this, is to have these trails along areas that give people access to recreational amenities. So I am supportive of this motion, though it's certainly none of us want to be in this place, and we feel as if we have been forced into this as the only way to be able to move forward to continue the park traditions and legacies that we all very deeply believe in.
Anyone else? Oh, Commissioner
I'll go
Vreeland.
again.
I'll give you a couple.
Graco, this is on their website. Graco is committed to conducting its worldwide business according to the highest standards of ethics and integrity. This commitment stems not only from a desire to avoid the many problems ethical violations can create, but more importantly from a conviction that good ethics is good business. Graco firmly believes that ethical conduct has helped and will continue to help fulfill Graco's mission of serving its stakeholders through its sustained profitable growth. Ethics and integrity are not simply a slogan, but part of our value system reflected every day in the performance of our employees. Our code of ethics and business conduct embodies these values and sets forth the standards of ethically sound behavior and accountability that we expect of all. It's time for them to be ethical, walk the walk, talk the talk.
Well, I don't know if I can follow that. As the district commissioner for the East Side, to say this is a disappointment is an understatement. We have had community members that have been working on getting these trails for decades. I can remember when I first came in as a newbie to AFCAC, and they had been talking about these contiguous trails on the north and northeast sides of the river, and how people had been working to get these and had the agreement of Graco, and they were so excited when they actually would open the gates and let people use the service road. And so these promises, these ideas that this would be something for the community in the future has been on everyone's mind for years. So as we have purchased these other pieces, the Shear Brothers site, the sites that go up the river past Sheridan Park, so that we can get this trail in, that we finally have a federal grant that they helped us to get, to come to this point where now they are going to be the rock in the road that's going to stop this from happening, is a shame. It's truly a shame. A multi-billion-dollar company that's international should have better standards than this. I mean, I was kind of embarrassed a couple of years ago when I found out there was an antitrust suit with Graco, because basically they're a monopoly. So they got that settled. They're out of the press. But this company that's almost a monopoly is now saying to the citizens of one city, yeah, we made a promise, but, we're the big corporate guy and we can change our mind if we want. And it's a shame because we thought they were great partners. We had enjoyed having them be part of the discussions that we had to have this happen. So I am very disappointed. I'm afraid that any action we might take might be too late because they can fight this. There's nothing that stops them from saying no or making an appeal or challenging any legal stuff we might do. And our timelines are pretty tight. I would hope that they would reconsider and say, you know what? We're not going to give it to you for free. We're going to make you pay for it. That would be even better than nothing. But this idea that they're going to make us hire attorneys and go to court and lose this grant for something that we've been working for decades to accomplish, and that they stood by our side and said, yes, this is something we want you to accomplish, and then change their mind at the last minute, is a shame. And the fact of the matter is, from the Alyssa who came here earlier this evening and said, the Stano neighborhood appreciates that they're there, but they have 8.5 acres of surface parking lot that they could reconfigure to do just about anything they want. I look at that parking lot that they have on the corner of Marshall and Plymouth Avenue every time I drive down Marshall. And that parking lot is huge. There's tons of cars parked all over the place. On those 8.5 acres, they could build one ramp and they could erect a beautiful headquarters building that would not only be able to look over the park, but also could look over all of the neighborhood there by Boom Island, because those are small houses, and you'd have a fabulous view of downtown. I don't know why they feel that this has to be right next to the river, where water could be a real issue, when they could be back in the corner, have real access to two very easily accessed streets, and still be high enough up in the air that their CEO and CFO could still have fabulous views of downtown. So Graco, it's a shame we have to do this, but I'm going to support whatever action it takes to get us this land to make this trail happen. Thank you.
I just want to point out to the folks out there what we're voting on. We're not voting on a lawsuit. We're voting on pursuing eminent domain. So again, it's legal stuff, but we are, President Walensky could describe it better than I, but again, I want to make sure that folks out there know what we're voting on. It's a rather long motion with lots of whereases. Would you help me describe it?
I'm actually going to ask Council Rice to describe the action. What happens when we pursue eminent domain?
Madam President, yes, the resolve clause of your action today is that the board authorize the acquisition of a permanent easement together with such temporary construction easements as may be needed to construct the parkland and trail purposes described above in the real property shown as Exhibit A attached hereto, which is a map of the acquisition, by continued good faith negotiations, or if such negotiations are not successful, by condemnation of a permanent easement together with such temporary construction easements as may be needed to construct the parkland and trail purposes described above from Graco, Minnesota, Inc. for the East Bank Trail purposes. And the East Bank Trail is a trail system that's been on the park board's plans for literally decades, and most specifically the more recently including the money that the federal grant that we got with a letter of support from Graco saying they endorsed the project. And what it would mean is that we will move ahead with submitting an appraisal to Graco saying here's how much we believe the cost is, try to yet again negotiate with them for the purchase of the land, and failing that, we would begin condemnation proceedings, which is a legal action, but is a specific type of legal action to acquire this easement and ask the court to grant us the property interest so we can connect the East Bank Trail from Boom Island up to Sheridan Park.
Is that clear enough for everybody?
Yep. Roll call.
And you will need 6 votes for this, Madam President, since it's an acquisition of real estate.
Thank you, Mr. Rice.
Commissioner Tabb.
Yes.
Commissioner Olson.
Aye.
Commissioner Forney.
Yes.
Commissioner Irwin.
Yes.
Commissioner Bourne.
Aye.
Vice President Vreeland.
Aye.
President Walensky.
Yes.
Resolution passes.
Thank you. All right, moving right along.